The whole idea is that if your brain is just electrical signals traveling through cells, that's not all that different from electrical signals passing through a rock, which is basically what your processor is. Hey everybody, I'm Griffin here, and welcome. I just realized that the game doesn't actually have its title on here, so maybe if I hit a game, it'll go. But yeah, this is the Turing Test, which is, from my understanding, is it's a puzzle game, so apparently I'm on a puzzle game kick. But the important thing to know is that the Turing Test is a test that was developed to basically, the idea of the Turing Test is to determine whether or not a computer is discernible from a human intelligence. So if something passes the Turing test, it is indiscernible from a human. Now, that's meant to mostly be in terms of like language and communication. So the idea isn't that you'd be like looking at a computer and you'd be like, oh yeah, that's clearly human. I'd be like, if you were messaging somebody, right? And this comes up in a couple different situations. So perhaps like a dating app, or just a message you get on like Discord or whatever. If it's a computer, something's off about it. Something just seems a bit odd or different.
Morning, Eva.
Oh wow. Okay, the audio is just really far off
Your
from the
wake-up has been sanctioned by the ISA.
subtitles.
We lost contact with the ground crew 450 hours ago. We have tried to establish further communications, but we are not getting any responses. We need you to investigate.
Okay, doesn't it make sense to do visual checks first?
We have already looked at the data.
Okay, now it seems to be synced.
The ISA has made the executive decision that you report to the surface post-haste. You are our emergency response.
What exactly is the emergency?
The ground crew found an organism the ISA believed to be dangerous. We need to re-establish communication.
Holy butts. Okay, something was really eating the cycles. Oh god. Maybe I need to turn some graphical settings down. Okay, so when we interact with something, we mouse to turn it around. So yeah, the idea of the Turing test is to test whether or not a computer communicating is discernible from a human. Which leads me to believe that we are either a robot or somebody here that we think is human is in fact a robot. Because robot, or a computer that passes the Turing test, you couldn't tell. Oh god. I bet you there's something valuable here if we take all this hex and put it into something else. I'm not going to bother to do that though. But yeah, that's what I am currently believing.
Pick up your EMT. It's on the side. Okay. We are going to take a lander to Europa. Make your way to the docking station.
Energy manipulation tool. Alright, good to know, I guess. So yeah, my guess is definitely that there's somebody here who's not human. That we believe is human. Flashlight seems like it'd be useful to take with me, just saying. Yeah, technically, if you were to put an AI that could pass the Turing test into a body that was not capable of being discerned from a human body, that you would, in fact, have a perfect replication of a human, or at least a robot that could pass as human.
What's the ship's status?
Which, of course, would be
I have
dangerous.
performed the necessary checks. The Europa lander is ready to launch.
Actually, I'm curious if I'm dumb. I'm curious if I'm confusing two different tests. Yeah, okay. I was right. Turing complete is something completely different. Well, it's not completely different. It's just mostly different.
I think that's everything wound up, Tom.
Yes.
Well, I guess I'm ready to go down for the long sleep then.
Good night, Ava. I
think-
will miss your assistance. The ship will be very quiet without you here.
Night. See you when I wake up, Tom.
Residuals before nulling, -02, -04, -01. X and Z null to 0. Looking good.
Okay, good. Horizon check right on time. How's things, Christopher?
Good. I am go for power descent.
I can confirm. You are go for powered descent.
Roger that. I am running the PDI program. 80-degree delta pitch to 88 degrees absolute. Braking procedure. Engine 1 ignition. Engine burn.
Suppressing 400 alarm.
Balance.
Suppressing 400
The
alarms.
landers are ready.
Good. Thanks, Tom.
Okay.
You okay now, Sarah?
Yeah, I think so. Thank you, Daniel. I've done this before.
I'm sure you'll be fine.
It's just another 10 years of my life.
Moving the mouse changes this as well as the WASD keys. So I'm fairly certain that Tom is a robot. Or is an AI, I should say, more specifically.
Bay 3.
Already launched. Already launched. Alright. I think there is a non-zero chance that our character is also a robot. We were in cryosleep. That would be a good potential background to, like...
Retro?
Go.
Fido?
Go.
Guidance?
Go.
Control?
Go.
Telcom?
Yeah, pretty sure Tom
Then we are
is
go
just
for
an
launch.
AI.
Initiating.
Zeppelin.
But he's not, like... He doesn't have very emotional reactions to
Engaging
stuff.
retro fire. I'm running the program. 80-degree delta pitch to 88 degrees absolute. Braking procedure.
That is... Shouldn't that be
Looks good.
braking as in B-R-A-K-I-N-G, not
502
B-R-E-A-K?
alarm. It looks like we're coming in too fast.
We are slightly short of the landing site.
Well,
We
the
are
game
going
is
to have
freezing
to
up
burn
again.
late. Go.
Full retrograde.
I don't have any control over any of this. But imagine if you were trying to get something, an AI to pass as human. One of the ways that you would need to test
Open
it
the door.
is by putting it in a human situation,
Welcome to
like
Europa.
to truly pass as human. So the idea that I just woke up from cryosleep and everybody else is gone is a great way to be like, yes, there's 3, pods that have already launched, and this is what happened. There was a new organism, etc. But when in reality, those 3 pods were 3 other tests of robots of me. Whatever invisible load screens are going on here, they just frickin' murder this game, dude. Maybe I need to not be running on ultra settings. But it's not like this is a new game. It's kind of old, I think. So at least here they just give us a loading screen. They accept that an invisible load is a bad choice, I assume. Because, yeah, this, we're having some processing issues. And, I mean, my computer isn't, the most up to snuff thing, but it's definitely not lacking. I don't know if I get 3070 in it, but...
The base has changed.
What do you mean?
The base was originally constructed as modules to withstand the seismic activity in and around Thera Magula. It appears the ground team have manipulated these modules. The base was built initially by machines. I served as the mind of these operations. I arrived first on Europa in 2240. It costs a lot to send humans into space with the necessary life support, especially such a vast distance from Earth.
Yeah, he's an AI.
So, robotics built this place.
I wonder why the ground team has changed these rooms.
I have a hypothesis. These rooms are Turing tests.
Turing tests?
Turing tests are tests designed to tell humans and machines apart. Typically, problems only solvable by a human. A combination of logical and lateral thinking.
So, you can't complete these tests, Tom?
No. That is why I am glad you are here to help. We need to work together.
That's good to know. So they are acknowledging that Tom is in fact an AI. It was never explicitly mentioned, but it made sense by the way he talks. Which is why Turing tests in general are difficult, because
They really have completely repurposed these rooms. I am quite impressed.
So, what were they used for before?
Most of them were used for storage. But they have converted them beyond recognition. Perhaps they ran out of things to do out here. The devil makes work for idle hands.
okay, interesting. So far, I'm getting Portal
Do you know the
vibes.
ground team's location?
The crew are deeper inside the base, it seems.
They must be trying to survive. Can you find their precise location?
I'm afraid not. I am working to regain control. Though I once had complete control of this base, a lot has changed in the past 500 hours.
Okay. They're watching me. So, okay, so that one's red. That one doesn't have a cage. That one doesn't. No, this one has handles. This one doesn't. But that means I can't pick this up either. Interesting. This is one of the puzzles that should be easy, but is not. Because I can't pick this up. Oh. I see. Okay. I can either put one of those in there. See, this is the part of the game that is learning the mechanics.
So, if this base is managed by you, why can't you find the crew?
The base's communication array is malfunctioning. Perhaps we can't solve this yet.
I assume that those need to be in a specific... So that seems to have some sort of electrical issue. I'm going to assume that I can't leave with this. Yeah, okay, that's what I figured. Can we hold 3 charges? Is that why? Indeed we can. Cool, good to know. Good to know.
This doesn't add up.
What does not add up?
If there was an accident, surely they'd come to find me, not try to lock me out.
My instance is still resolving conflicts. I expect they have their reasons.
Right, I'm dumb. Working on my FPS skills, apparently.
My instance has just been updated.
Sorry?
I have 2 instances of my mind, 2 separate versions. A slave mind running on the satellite, and a master running here on the surface.
Okay.
When the communication was cut between the surface base and the satellite, the 2 instances of my mind were separated. So, during all this time, all of my knowledge divided into 2 separate branches. I continue to learn on the satellite, and I continue to learn on the surface. I am trying to merge the knowledge to create a timeline of what's happened here. But there are incongruities between these memories.
Ooh.
Conflicts.
We messed with stuff. So far, the puzzles haven't been very
This
difficult.
is the
That's
command
okay.
center. You can check on the crew status from here.
I tried. You gotta let me pick that up.
Tom, start recording.
I am always recording, Daniel.
The day is January the 6th. My watch says it's 2:30 on Earth. Here we are, members of the human race, standing on Jupiter's moon Europa. I am Captain Daniel McLean. I'm joined here by the rest of my team. It is our intention to make this moon our home and investigate life on this planet. Man's curiosity and appetite for discovery will continue to change our world for the better.
Inspiring. And might I add my congratulations to you all.
Here it is. Beautiful, isn't it? What makes this one more remarkable than the others? The way it attaches itself to other organisms. Its behavior is very abnormal. It seems to form a symbiotic relationship with most life forms. How do you mean? Do you want me to dumb it down? I know what it means. What does it do? It attaches itself to almost anything living, but it's not parasitic. It's quite alien. We're trying to figure out what effects it has on life forms.
So, something that forms a symbiotic relationship. The music is really, really loud. I'm gonna take that down a little bit.
Here it is. Beautiful, isn't it? What makes this one more remarkable than the others? The way it attaches itself to other organisms.
Its behavior is very abnormal. It seems to form a symbiotic relationship with most life forms.
How do you mean?
Do you want me to dumb it down?
I know what it means. What does it do?
It attaches itself to almost anything living, but it's not parasitic. It's quite alien. We're trying to figure out what effects it has on life forms.
Mikhail, you seem distant.
Do I?
Yes. What's wrong? What's wrong, Mikhail? Mikhail, what's wrong? Are you listening, Mikhail? Are you able to hear?
Did he attack? Did it steal
I
intelligence?
was talking to the ISA. They don't know what to do with this. The magnitude of the discovery.
We should send samples back to Earth. I think we need to get this to a better lab. Me and Sochi are having trouble making enough clones. I'm going to run out of the necessary resources to continue studying Organism 119.
They're calling for a grounding of all Europa transport until they get your report.
Seriously?
Yeah.
That's rather drastic.
Did they say something about clones? 'Cause that makes me think I'm a clone. Okay, so, okay, we've got some canceled flights. Fortuna is in low orbit around Europa. It can house a crew of 12. It serves a communication link between Earth and Europa's surface base. That's where I was. So Dr. Soichi Yui. Funny. Some of these are very clearly actual people, and some of them are very clearly not. I wonder if that's like Kickstarter backers or if it's devs. Synthesis of DNA duplicates of sample 937. This is us, Ava Turing. The fact that our last name is Turing. American, date of birth 2211. Investigate communications crisis. Contact ISA, contact ground teams, and review Fortuna's diagnostics. Wow, current objective terminated. That doesn't seem good. Outstanding tasks, keep calm. Okay, so I'm gonna guess that Chris McLean is just dead. Because he doesn't have a current objective or any outstanding tasks. Let's see. Classified and classified. Thanks, Captain. Oh, they're brothers. Daniel McLean and Chris McLean. Dr. Sarah Brooke, exobiologist. Classify the organism. Classify all life recovered sequence. So my guess is that Sarah Brooke is probably the only person we run into, because she's going to look like that. So we're probably not running into either of the McLeans, Mikhail, or Dr. Soichi Yui. DAB, digital auto broadcasting. Okay. Europa's drilling platform is the largest outside of Earth. At 40 meters high, it is one of the tallest machines on any moon. That implies that there's stuff on other moons. The drill has bored to a depth of over 4 kilometers and recovered a million kilograms of material from deep underneath the surface. This extraction is made possible by utilizing a Shiyama electrical fusion reactor. Cool. So apparently in this universe we have fusion. Europa loading bay. Status compromised. Transfer material unknown. Crew transfers unknown. Signal interrupted. Europa's ground base was built using thousands of tons of resources shipped to Europa through an interplanetary network. Okay, so it's a tap once thing. Europa base modules. Europa's base is built beneath Europa's surface, buried in Thera maculus ice. Its modern modular nature has to be reconstructed according to the mission's needs at any time. And then to the drill. Okay. So we can do the same thing over here. I was expecting something to be more interactive. Jupiter. Heliocentric orbit. Jupiter is the second largest physical body in our solar system. It has a large gravitational impact which stretches and squashes Europa. This creates geothermal energy inside Europa. It's a source of great heat. This has created a subsurface ocean. So, an ocean underneath the surface, which is true. We knew that about Europa. Europa's surface is constantly facing Jupiter as it rotates because it is tidally locked to it, though it has now been discovered that the rocky interior rotates separately underneath the ice and watery layers. Is that true? Or is that something they made up for this game? Because if that's true, that's fucking awesome, actually. Well, probably nothing good has happened to the crew. Achievement unlocked, Chapter 1. So yeah, I think there's going to be... I do need to remember that there is that room with the energy stuff. With the 2 energy balls. So we're going to want to solve that puzzle when we get a chance.
What conditions should I expect to find the ground crew in?
Daniel went missing days ago. Chris is presumed dead. We are expecting to find Sarah, Mikhail, and Sochi in a stable condition.
Chris is dead?
He was involved in an accident.
So I was right.
Could we take a more direct way to the ground team?
Unfortunately, there is not a direct route. The base is buried under ice to protect it from the radiation of space.
Similar to the Mars base.
Similar. Europa's base is slightly deeper into the surface. There is more radiation present from solar events on Mars. But Mars's surface is denser than that of Europa.
Okay, I don't have access to this one's power. Unfortunate. Yep, as I assumed. Oh, come now.
Okay, what are their chances of survival here? Oxygen, the food stores, waste management.
Everything seems to be in order. There was a small problem with the food stores, but the crew fixed that up. We successfully transitioned over to a sustainable, small, artificial ecosystem a year ago, growing fruit and vegetables. It helps boost morale, amongst other things. The crew members could hypothetically survive here for their whole lifetimes.
Okay, so there's no way out of this. Out of that room. Okay, interesting, interesting. Okay, not sure what we need to do with that yet. I see. Is this the best way to do this? No. But it's the way that I chose, okay? So far I'm enjoying it. I mean, the puzzles
My
haven't...
purpose as the overseer of this mission is to work for the ISA. I am the ISA's feet and hands. The distance between Jupiter and Earth make it inappropriate for the ISA to directly interface with the mission directives. As my AI core is stationed on Europa, I can make decisions instantaneously about the running of the base.
Okay. I can't pick any of this up. So there's a way to get past this that I just don't understand. Ah, well then. So I can't just physically push this. I understand how this works, but I can't lock anything in there, so I'm not... I'm kind of stuck here. So this is one of the things where I don't understand what they want me to do because I haven't had enough experience. I'm missing a puzzle piece here. Oh. I'm just fucking blind is the answer to the question. That's what I figured. So here's the real question. Oh, right, because this lets me get both of those in there, which I can fetch from this window. That makes sense.
How does the ISA know you're gonna make the right decisions here when they can't communicate with us?
Interestingly, I have a twin on Earth. His name is Michael. The ISA uses my twin to check firmware updates before they upload them to myself. There is a simulation of this mission on Earth, running at all times to check my expert systems. Naturally, as any modern artificial intelligence running on a quantum computer, I do also have a large amount of evolutionary algorithms at my disposal. However, they were deemed as too unreliable for general use in the mission.
Why is that?
Biological systems produce biological results. Messy, unpredictable solutions. Not suitable for such a mission.
Ah, so those have to be orbs. I see. That one doesn't. So the question is, what combination of things do I need where? Yeah, that's what I thought. We need to switch the orientation of these. It does have a couple issues like actually locking in, but otherwise... God damn it. I'm entertained by this, but I'm also incredibly annoyed. Shall we have a polite conversation? Oh, I think you're a robot. This is no matter what I'm typing, by the way. Now, the I am a drone. I'm hitting the escape key. Okay, that's cute. And also stupid. Okay. So, interestingly, or more accurately, not interestingly. Alright. Turing tests are incredibly difficult. Because technically, just because something passes the Turing test
Did
doesn't
the
mean
ISA build you, Tom?
it's not
As
a
the
robot.
child of the ISA, I have been given authority aboard this station. I was designed by the ISA and the Ashiyama Corporation, designed in California, assembled in China. But here on Europa, I constructed myself. Have you heard of the Turing Test, Ava? It's a test to see if a computer can successfully impersonate a human. In the original Turing Test, a human judge has two conversations, one with a machine and one with another human. They then judge which of these polite conversations is with a machine and which is with a human. The machine being tested is said to have passed the Turing Test if the judge cannot reliably tell which conversation is with a machine and which is with a human.
Do you think you'd pass the Turing test?
I am quite capable of polite conversation. Wouldn't you say?
I mean, so yeah, I mean, there's the rub, basically, in all things. You can almost make that jump. Okay, but unless we've got two, we might as well hold on to this. Right, I was like, oh god, now I've done it. I've soft-locked myself. Nope. But yeah, Turing tests are tough. Turing tests are interesting, and basically the important part is that they're just very difficult. Because basically the second you develop an AI that is capable of passing the Turing tests, digital communication is no longer effective. Well, I shouldn't say effective, but it basically shouldn't be allowed, because you'll never know when you're talking to a robot. Imagine that. But thus far, the Turing test...
The Turing test has been criticized. Researchers claim it does not correctly test a machine's ability to think, but rather its ability to deceive.
What do you mean?
That's very
Well,
true.
Have you heard of the Chinese room thought experiment?
No.
Imagine you are in a room. In this room, you are passed Chinese sentences through a slot in the wall. Inside the room is an instruction book written in English. This instruction book tells you which Chinese words to pass back through the slot in the wall as a response. By doing so, you have a conversation in Chinese. In the Chinese room, because the responses you pass back through the door are the correct responses, the person on the other side of the door is convinced you are a native Chinese speaker.
Well, if they're wrong.
Perhaps they are not. Because with the instruction book, you are having a conversation.
But the person stuck in the Chinese room is not aware of the conversation's content.
This is the problem with the Turing test. A computer can pass the Turing test, having convinced a human they are having a polite conversation, while the computer has no idea that a conversation has taken place.
What if both of the people passing Chinese words are reading from instruction books?
I may be a machine, but I personally do not believe I am stuck inside the Chinese room.
Right, you would say that. I could peer inside your databases at any time, Tom. Or pause your operation.
Do not assume I could not do the same to you.
Ho, 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 ho. So this game is actually doing a great job. It's not just called the Turing test and then is sitting on that blindly. It's actually talking about it, which I'm very happy of. But I also want to point out that this right here is a great way, an absolutely great way to introduce a mechanic to a puzzle game. I tried ducking. You can't duck. You're forced to walk through it, and you're showing that you are interrupting the flow of electricity. It doesn't actually stop you from getting where you need to go. It doesn't force you to guess what it does, but I already know what I need to do for this room because of it. So yeah, fantastic, fantastic way. So where... I need an extra thing of power. Oh, do I need to get it through that window? Because I can't carry it from back here. I can't reflect any of that, so it has to be through this window. Yeah, that's probably the one where I need to put it. So yeah, this game, talking about how the Turing Test has flaws, is very good and interesting. Because that is one of the flaws of the Turing Test, is...
This is the crew's quarters.
Oh.
It looks abandoned.
I do not see the need for so many cameras. Tom's presence everywhere is slightly oppressive. I understand the need for transparency, but why is he in the toilets? But yeah, if you were to create a Turing test that passed, you could effectively accomplish what he was saying about the Chinese translation. What is this now? Riluzole. Prescription only 50 capsules. 1 capsule per 12 hours orally. Oh, nice. Oof, okay. Operation paused. Audio log 71.1.42. $15 amp cookbook? Code book. Telomeres, okay. Apparently slightly or to some degree religious. Has a beautiful dog. Dear Tom, knowing you're always watching, I thought I would write you a letter. As you no longer reside in my mind, I've decided to transfer my thoughts to text. I want to do so in the form of a fake I said fake history lesson because I think I read sake below of a history lesson. A lesson that perhaps you'll find condescending, but it's likely more for my sake than yours. Alan Turing is considered a father of theoretical computer science and artificial intelligence. True. Perhaps a lesser known part of his life was his contributions to the field of biology. Why do you suppose his interests lay in the two disparate fields? I assume it was because he believed the world to be logical and understandable. He was a mathematician. He seemed to believe that great complexity of the universe could be explained with simple rules. 2 years before his suicide in 1952, Alan Turing developed something called the reaction diffusion system. Inside of the academic world, this work is cited more than his work on computers. It can be generally formalized as a one-line equation. Yep, I don't know what that means. I'm no mathematician, however, in plain English, this equates to this equation describes things that wish to diffuse, however, also react with each other during the process. I am sure this sounds strange to you, or at the very least tangential to our lives here on Europa. What relevance does it have to anything here? Reaction diffusion systems show how patterns are created. They show how the leopard got its spots, how the zebra got its stripes. But my real interest here is Turing's interest, that nature can be formalized, that we can understand the natural world in mathematical terms. Turing created the test to answer the question, can a machine impersonate a human? The intrigue behind that being, can the human mind be simulated by a machine? Why ask that question? To prove that the human mind is a machine. I'm not sure that is Turing's opinion, however. Concerning consciousness, he states this. According to the most extreme form of this view, the only way by which one could be sure that a machine thinks is to be the machine and to feel oneself thinking. One could then describe these feelings to the world, but of course no one would be justified in taking any notice. Likewise, according to this view, the only way to know that a man thinks is to be that particular man. If the human mind exists within the physical world, it obeys the same rules of physics and chemistry as every other thing in the world. Therefore, like all of nature, it is merely reactive. It is curious that nature would create, through the mechanics of determinism, creatures that believe they have free will. Conversely, I suppose if we conclude that we are all machines, we only came to this conclusion in a predetermined manner. We cannot claim credit for our discovery, as it is just a product of nature's genius, not our own. A humbling idea, I think. Behaviorism. Maybe we are more similar than we think. I find it weird that our statement is about Tom being in our head. So yeah, I'm really not sure about that. But that hits on big topics. That hits big topics. Right, we already hit that up. Oh, I went the wrong way. So yeah, how to even begin to dig into some of these things, because we're about to hit even more information, I imagine. So yeah, there's this whole idea that more ribosol. Okay. More, ooh, she paints. Oh gosh, we'll get to that when I'm done talking. Oh, he paints. Sorry. Mikhail. Another dog. So many people have dogs. That's good. Ooh, fun. They wanted, this has to be we wanted to toy with refraction. I hope these are empty. Ooh, nice painting. It's actually pretty good. So yeah, there's this whole idea that the human brain is just a bunch of electricity running through cells. I mean, that's what it is. Your neurons firing and just electrical signals passing from one neuron to another. And through the giant complexity that is your brain, it results in what we observe as conscious thought. So, of course, you are aware of yourself, and you have the ability to think about your brain. And we take this for granted because in practice, it doesn't matter. At least for us, because the way that we experience life, the way we go about doing things, generally it isn't nearly as meta as that. Sometimes it is, though, like this game. And that's where it becomes interesting, because there's an argument that humans don't actually have free will, and that's kind of what the whole Turing thing is touching on, is because he's saying, hey, if a computer can deceive you, what prevents us from being machines? Or as she flipped it around, you know, if we are just machines, you know, why do we think we have free will? It's not exactly a perfect summary of their standpoints. But the whole idea is that if your brain is just electrical signals traveling through cells, that's not all that different from electrical signals passing through a rock, which is, you know, basically what your processor is. I love the idea that computers are just rocks that we have tricked into thinking, because that's mostly, I mean, it's true from a little bit of a stretch definition, but entertaining nonetheless. But there's this whole idea that humans don't actually have free will because our brains are deterministic. So deterministic, I apologize if this sounds condescending to those who already know what it is. But deterministic basically means that if you do the same thing, the same thing's going to happen. You can determine what is going to happen. So it's that whole old physics problem of if you throw a ball at this angle, you know, at this speed, how far is it going to go? Things like that. At any point in time during that arc, you could say exactly where that ball is, what its velocity is, you know, what the vector of its velocity is, things like that. Now, we simplify a lot of those problems, like we ignore air resistance, partially because it's negligible in some cases on the scales that are being explored. But in some cases they're not, in which case you have to then take into account air resistance, which is why we have like those aerodynamic tunnels is to determine some of those things. But regardless, that is the idea of determinism. So if your brain is just a bunch of cells firing neurons at each other, is it possible that your brain is just a result of physics and is also deterministic? If I could make an exact copy of you, I mean copy paste, if I could take your room that you are sitting in right now watching TV and make an exact copy and place them next to each other, like just right next to each other, but yet not so that you could see each other, and observed exactly what was happening and make sure that every input into that system is exactly the same. Like if your AC turns on, it turns on at the exact same time in both places, the exact same temperature. This video that you're currently watching right now is exactly the same, and I'm saying everything at the exact same time. If I were to observe both of those rooms with both copies of you in it watching this video, would you both react and think the exact same things at the exact same time? If I were to then, I don't know, do something absolutely ridiculous in both of those rooms, like, I don't know, a tiger walked in the door, would you react? Would both of you react in the exact same way? And if that tiger was exactly the same, would the tiger do the exact same thing? Like, if the answer to all of those is yes, they do the exact same thing, if you can't find a single thing that goes into both rooms in the exact same way that doesn't create the exact same reaction. So if you find something that if you put it in there changes what you do, then your brain is not deterministic because it varies. Now you could make an interesting argument that's that like superpositions and there's some theoretical stuff, but you could make some interesting points about like humans technically, like you can't observe things without changing their position, or that what is it, quantum tunneling, there's a very small chance, you know, like you could make arguments about these things that would cause these to be different, but we don't actually have a way to test that exactly the way that we would need to test it to determine if a human brain is in fact deterministic. Because if a human brain is deterministic, do you have free will? It's a very interesting question. If you're, I prefer to think of it more of as if in fact the human brain is deterministic, your brain is just a very, very, very complicated state machine. A very complicated state machine. Which if you're not familiar with a state machine, it's just like the concept is you are in a state. It could be state 1, state 2, and if input 1, so the next line of this video, the next sound coming out of the video is input, 2 billion, right? Input 2 billion takes you from state 1 to state, 300,412, right? Like, and then, the next line takes you to a different one, and then a tiger showing up, walking in your door takes you to a different one from each state. Each state has that mapping, right? So whatever state you can get to from state A has a line and an input. So, but it's incredibly complicated, right? Billions, trillions, who knows how many states. But that's the idea. Is if your brain is deterministic, that would potentially be a valid model to describe your brain. Like, I saw a dog, I was happy and said, "Aw, cute dog." If the multiverse is true, right? There's another version of me that walked in and saw this dog and said, "Oh, cute dog," the exact same time that I did, right? But maybe I'm not actually making decisions. Maybe I was in a state that no matter what, if I saw this picture, I would have picked it up and said, "Aw, cute dog," because that's just another state that I was guaranteed to make it to when I got this input. Like, that's... But then do I really have free will? Because my brain is just naturally acting as it always would. No matter what, if I were given that exact same stimulus in that exact same moment, from that exact same state, I would always transition to a different state. If that's true, do you have free will? Or is it just the illusion of free will? It's a very interesting question. I did not do it justice in this explanation. I would highly recommend looking into it if it sounds like a good brain problem. But we're going to keep going because otherwise I could talk about this for a while. So March 6th, the whole team experienced nausea during a large electrical surge. I am concerned. This was not an instance of mass hysteria. Vital signs were affected. It caused a uniform surge in heart rate that was detected in all members of the crew. I reported the nauseous incident to the ISA. They offered an explanation of electrical disturbance to our central nervous system. This is ludicrous. An electrical surge large enough to affect our nervous system would have done more than make the team feel ill. Interesting point. I've discovered that electrical fields disturb our telemetry implants in a way I didn't expect. I've contacted ISA. Strangely, Tom was not comfortable with my attempts to disturb the implant. Ah, okay, I see. The ISA have been reporting back informing me that I am not to disturb the implants. They also have encouraged me not to mess with the further team. I do not know what that word is, by the way. I've been running some experiments outside of Tom's view. I can tell he knows this. He has been acting differently around me like an offended child. I feel increasingly nauseous. These implants seem to have neural connectivity. Out-of-body experiences are more frequent now. I have established a definite correlation. Against my knowledge, I have been implanted with a device that affects my mind. I use my opportunities in regular health checkups to investigate the crew. We all have them. Every single one of us is implanted with some mind-altering contraption. Tom has been encouraging the team to worry about my mental health. He requested that I retire away from the crew. Misinformation. I once again cannot pronounce that. I believe that is Cyrillic. I cannot will myself to investigate this further. I retired quickly. I cannot think straight. I'm not sure if the implant is affecting my thoughts anymore. I believe it is trying to subdue my mind. I think I am going to attempt an excision. I'm going to remove this implant. I'm typing with my left hand now. The excision went wrong. I've successfully removed the implant. Unfortunately, I lost my hand in the operation. Tom is very angry. The crew refused to talk to me. Apparently, I am a bad influence. Sarah patched me up. I wonder if the nature of the organism and its disturbance of my DNA caused my awakening from Tom's influence. If so, that would make for a worrisome revelation. Perhaps this organism is not so friendly. Dan informed me ISA have called for my termination. My masochistic experiment proves I am a danger to the mission. Fortunately, he chose not to lock me in the brig. I am going to investigate this implant further. I have to hide my work. The team are becoming increasingly aggressive. They seem to oppose my work to understand the implant. It does not help that Tom is encouraging them to distrust me. April 7th. I have discovered the nature of the implant. It is a complex computer. It interfaces with the human mind directly. It seems to condition the mind through Pavlovian instrumental conditioning, eliciting feelings of euphoria when the wearer is obedient and dysphoria when they are disobedient. It has also the effect of suppressing impulses in the frontal lobe, presumably to lower free will. It seems to interface crudely with motor neurons cells throughout the cerebellum. It is my hypothesis that the crew is controlled by this implant. That is their strong aversion to helping me. I need a method of suppressing its impact. Perhaps a drug? Riluzole? Maybe an antidepressant to minimize the conditioning effects. Combined with a strong electromagnetic field, I could use one of the industrial electromagnets from the construction robots. I've managed to get Chris on my side. He's agreed to test some medical procedures with me in private. It will be more difficult one-handed, but I must persevere. I am hoping to keep this out of the eyes of Tom, though I have the feeling he will still be listening. All right. We've got a really interesting tidbit here, and that's that, of course, they have implants in their brain, obviously. But, oh man, this is so conspiracy theory. So the idea is that if Tom is in the head, which we've kind of determined is the case, that they were using the implant to influence people, which is part of that free will argument, right? This isn't. Yeah, it was the other. This is a antidepressant, Riluzole. Oh, took off his wedding ring? I assume so. All right, so we've got some tablets here that I'm going to read, and that's probably going to have to be the end of this episode. But it basically seems like they're basically messing with your brain just a little bit every time. To Matthew Layton, from hi Matthew, I've been studying organism 119. Please find attached scanning electron microscope image which appears to show pilus information. We hypothesize that this is a stress response to high levels of radiation. We plan to infect a human cell line with organism 119 and perform irradiation experiments with flow cytometry. I don't know what that means. Would this be appropriate? It would be great if you could get the department to look at this SEM image. Hey Soichi, it was great to see this image. Wow, yet more complex life on Europa. It might be worth. Okay, Dinococcus radiodurans might be worth looking at as it survives very high levels of radiation here on Earth. Similarly, you should consider looking at Sulfatobus acidocalidarius, Sulfolobus acidocafidarius produces pill in response to radiation and uses them to transfer DNA. Perhaps your organism uses a similar mechanism. Have you considered that organism 119 is transferring or scavenging DNA as a method of surviving radiation? As you well know, in terms of radiation, Europa receives 5.4 SV per day, over 300,000 times level on Earth. The organism must have evolved such a high resistance to radiation as necessity of survival. That said, the radiation beneath their macular is much lower due to the thick ice crust. Radiation experiments with cytometry sounds like an appropriate course of action. So they're messing with this new organism. Hi, Matthew. I've attached an image confirming that organism 119 attaches to human cells. We will proceed with irradiation experiments on these cell lines. We have proposed naming organism 119 Europa radiophilus. That makes sense, as it likes radioactivity. Radiophile. Okay, it attaches to the cells. We have run new radiation experiments that confirm that E. radiophilus does not indeed seem to confer resistance to radiation. See attached, we assume survival is due to DNA damage repair. We tagged various DNA repair enzymes with GFP and have found that DNA double-strand break repair is occurring. Okay. I don't know how to read those per se, but that makes sense. Something's amiss. We don't know what is performing the repair. The lab doesn't know how E. radiophilus could repair DNA. Have you considered that another organism may be in symbiotic relation with E. radiophilus, perhaps a virus? We ran a PCR on the human cells exposed to E. radiophilus to see if there is a virus present. We have discovered an unknown virus which is named unknown Europa virus, UEV. Gel electrophoresis image attached. So basically they used DNA or they broke down all the DNA in the cell, and some of it disagreed with the majority of it, which means there's a virus in there. This is phenomenal. You need to sequence this. We finished sequencing it. The data attached. It is a virus unlike any we've ever seen. Maybe we found a cure for senescence, a form of biological immortality. We are running some long-term tests on plants and mice to see the effects. So senescence is exactly what it sounds like, old age. At the end of all of your DNA, you have a bunch of extra, basically garbage DNA that I can't remember the name of. It's telomeres. It's telomeres. In fact, they're called telomeres. We've seen that word before. Telomeres are basically garbage DNA on the end of all of your chromosomes that slowly decay. So as you age, as your cells divide, the DNA in them gets damaged. Just a little bit. And that damage generally gets it generally happens on the ends. And that is where your telomeres are. Because mistakes happen with copying, etc., etc. But as those get shorter and shorter, those mistakes end up more in your actual DNA, the important DNA, the DNA that actually is designed, is there to make proteins that you need to survive and function. So when your telomeres are gone, that's kind of dying of old age, which tends to be like organ failure, things like that, because the proteins that are needed aren't being made. So a cure to senescence would be something that constantly repairs your DNA. So if from an early age, presumably after puberty, if you had something there that was constantly repairing telomeres and your DNA never got cut into, you would never die of old age. Hypothetically, there are more things than just that are old age. So, presumably, actually, I'm not an expert in the matter. Those are just the basic things that I know. But there are creatures on this planet, such as jellyfish and I believe even like lobsters, that are technically biologically immortal. They die for other reasons. But yeah, we are not one of those. But hypothetically, why not? All right. The plants are clearly exhibiting longer lifespans when exposed to the organism. We don't have the facilities here to continue testing. We are going on to human testing. We are going to use ourselves as subjects. It's the only way to accelerate the progress. Soichi, why? That's so bad. Human experiments are always dangerous. So what's that you found then, Soichi? We found an extremophile, an organism that can live in extreme conditions that survives massive doses of radiation. Radiation damages DNA. The extremophile has a virus living inside it. The extremophile scavenges DNA from other organisms, which the virus uses to repair the extremophile's damaged DNA. Essentially, they work together to survive in what's called a symbiotic relationship. So what's the implication? What does it do? In some ways, it is an immortal relationship. It doesn't seem to age biologically. Aging and death are ultimately caused by DNA damage. We have the ability to fix our DNA, but that ability is limited. This organism can repair damage caused by massive doses of radiation. If we could harness this power, we could potentially eliminate biological aging, what is known as senescence. Wow, I feel like I've already said this. So you found something that could make humans immortal. Not exactly. There are many causes of death other than DNA damage, as mentioned. It would not save you from trauma, from brain damage or cardiac arrest, but it could potentially cure cancers and many genetic diseases and massively increase life expectancy. Very true. So yeah, I think this is going to be the end of the hallway and into another one screen. So, very cool that we're delving into some very interesting things. That was the end of chapter 2. I just got the achievement, so we're going to stop here for this episode. But overall, this is really cool. I like this game so far. I think it's pretty neat. I'm not quite sure where exactly everything's going to go, but we apparently have like so much stuff going on here. We've got a robot, an AI that runs everything that's in everybody's head, presumably is in my head as well. It would make sense. In my head, potentially contributing to my behavior or what I do with myself, and also an organism that could potentially make humans immortal or effectively immortal. But we are going to stop here. We're going to stop here. Chapter 3, Sector 21. Actually, I do want to see. Yep, look at that. End of chapter 3, end of chapter 2, start of chapter 3. So, I'll pause here, and we will say thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I'm very curious about this game. Like, I'm now 100% on board. I like what they're going. I wasn't sure what I was going to get when I started this game, but so far, I'm liking it. I'm liking it a lot. So, I will see you next time as we delve further into what is going on in Europa. But until then, keep your gears turning.